Welcome to the Market Like a Man podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. This is where ordinary entrepreneurs come for inspiration and education to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes until the job gets done. Look, when I made the leap from corporate America to running my own business, I had a wife, 5 kids, a mortgage, and they all wanted to eat and sleep in warm beds. I didn't have the luxury of hitting rock bottom while I found myself on my buddy's couch or in somebody's basement or going back home so mommy could dry my eyes, pat my back, and tell me everything is going to be okay while I find myself. Oh no. I had to put food on the table, a lot of food on the table, every single day, every week, every month. This is the no hype, cut to the chase material, ideas, and training I wish I had when I started down my entrepreneurial journey. This is one of the premier sales, marketing, and entrepreneurial programs available, and it's free. Make sure to stay up to date on everything I'm working on, along with additional content I don't have time to share on the podcast by signing up for the Weekly Whisper at weeklywhisper.com. If you're curious about where to start when it comes to taking control of your sales and marketing is just selling in print, you can get my sales agenda to use in your everyday sales life at thesalesagenda.com. Finally, get the on-demand help you need to grow your sales at 30daysalesgrowth.com. Enter the promo code podcast to save a few bucks on your order. If you have any questions on ways I might be able to help you here with my team at The Sales Whisperer, feel free to email me, Wes at thesaleswhisperer.com. That is my actual email address, and I read everything that is not stupid, spammy, or ridiculous. Now on to the show. Today's topic is so many encouraging but not useful tips. I'm recording this on a Sunday afternoon. I actually just got back from doing a little blueberry picking with the family. Got a nice little orchard, I guess you'd call it. I don't know, do you call it an orchard? I'm going to look that up. So we got some blueberries for the kids. Just had a little din-din. And I am enjoying right now something that is an encouraging tip as well as useful. It's a little Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Select Tennessee Whiskey. And I got that from my friends over at Mobbit. Helped them make a sale, and they sent me a little thank you gift. So if you want to see how that works, you can text the word sales, S-A-L-E-S, sales, to 72,000. And for now, at least, I don't know how long I'll do it, but you'll get the free version of my book as a PDF. So check that out. So that is an encouraging and a useful tip. But what I want to talk about today is all of the silly things that we hear out there, these tips that sound good, but when you really take a step back and look at it, it's like, what the hell? How does this really apply to my life? How can I do that? Okay, and so a few of them that I wrote down, and I'm sure you've heard, the old carpe diem, right? Seize the day. And it's encouraging, right? But in most everybody's everyday life, how is that useful? I do the best that I can to seize the day. I've got plans, I've got goals, building my team, got projects I'm working on, a new book, new events and training. I mean, I try to seize the day, okay? But sometimes you get hit right in the nose. They say do not check your email first thing in the morning. And again, I do my best to do that. I've got my assistant where we work more and more with her, looking at things, especially in the morning. And one of my goals moving forward is to spend a lot more time reading, a lot more time offline in the morning, because that's when I'm personally productive. I'm an early bird. I like getting up. I get up early, do a little reading, do a little writing, make breakfast for my boys, get them off to school. I try to hit the gym early, although depending on what's happening, sometimes I'll go midday when it's not so hectic. But I need to get in a better routine. Okay, but sometimes I will check email, and things are blowing up. I'm working on moving the website now. We're moving the hosting. We are working on a new web design. I've got clients that are doing launches, and I don't want to leave them in the lurch if something's happening, if their things aren't working. And so, sometimes the day gets away. Now, again, it's the reason why I'm working on taking more control. Dan Kennedy talks about it in his Ruthless Management of People. Let me give you the exact name of it. I've got it sitting right up here. No BS Ruthless Management. It's just all that's called. And he talks about, making yourself invisible, be hard to reach. And I've really done a significantly better job of that over the years. Even when I was in sales, in corporate America, I would be a little bit harder to reach. And it sounds counterintuitive, and I'll touch on that later in another podcast. But I'm working on being harder to reach, working on focusing on my own stuff. But I'm not there 100%. So I'm still helping some clients, although much fewer. But again, sometimes things just get in the way. Life gets in the way. So I think that carpe diem, it's one of those encouraging, but maybe not as useful as it sounds. The other is this whole work-life balance. And, I've been married going on 20 years this year. We've got 7 kids. And you know what? We've been out of balance probably more than we've been in balance. Having all these kids, we had 3 miscarriages as well. I've been laid off so many times, I can't count. We've moved houses, we've moved cities, we've moved states. Okay, I have traveled with corporate America. I've traveled and owning my own business. And, I have lost sleep. I have been stressed out, worrying about this. And I saw something a while ago, but it was really impactful. But it's like, they said a business to an entrepreneur is like a baby. You worry about it. You stay up late at night. If it's ill, like when your website isn't working right, when maybe the e-commerce portal plugins aren't working right, when your follow-up sequences aren't working right, when you're launching a new product or you're going to a trade show, you're working on new offers, new opt-ins, new lead magnets, and they're behind, which they inevitably always are. You worry about it. You stress out about it, just like with your kids. And so, this work-life balance, sometimes you're going to be out of balance. I think as an entrepreneur, we thrive on being out of balance. And so one thing that I would encourage you to do that is also useful is to marry well, right? Marry smartly. And if you did not marry well or marry smartly, then figure it out. Okay, work on it. It's worth working on. I forget the exact numbers, but I saw something like 90% of a person's joy or misery comes from their spouse. So figure it out. And, speaking of which, this is what kind of brought this on, the subject. I saw this headline a couple of weeks ago. I think Larry Wingett had it on. And then I saw a guy that's a moderately well-known, I guess. He's got a book. I think he's got a TV show, or he's featured on a lot of shows. And he's running around. He's one of these guys. He's making this video. Hey, everybody, I'm just, before I head off, to some exotic island with my very beautiful, live-in girlfriend. I just want to tell everybody, hey, take time for yourself, man. Make sure you shut down, okay? Make sure you really got to unwind and give yourself some time. Yeah, when you're a multimillionaire and you can get on a private jet and go to an island, leave the kids behind with your ex-wife and bring your model supermodel girlfriend and just go hang out on the beach for a week. You're right, man. I should do that more often. But how many people can't do that? I've got coming up this July, end of July into early August, I'm taking the whole family, 9 of us, to Hawaii for 8 days. Okay. And honestly, it's our only big vacation I think we've ever done. We've taken 2-week trips, across the country to see family and taken our time and done some sightseeing. And, we've gone camping. We had a camper for quite a while. And even before we had a camper, we would go in these little log cabins at KOA. But, they weren't big, exotic vacations. And some of these, when we were learning, they were a little bit stressful as well. We got to get the trailer. We got to clean that thing up. We got to get it all packed up and ready. When we come back, we got to clean it out again, empty it, go put it back in storage. So we did what we could to make memories. We're still working on that. But when you hear these guys, just make sure to take time for yourself. It's like sometimes you are just grinding it out. And sometimes it's a very long stretch of time that you're grinding it out. And you think, is this worth it? You always hear me contradict myself, okay? One is never quit, and the other is know when to quit. You've got to keep going. The journey, your goal is to be this independent entrepreneur, a successful business owner. And so that overarching goal is worth it. Okay, you're building that security, you're building that independence, but maybe you're going down the wrong path. Okay, it's possible that you're going down a dead-end road, so, okay, you turn around, but it doesn't mean you get out of the car and you start walking. Okay, it doesn't mean you get out of the car and just lay down in the dirt and just give up and die. So, you do have to know when to quit, but it's usually way beyond the point where you think you're supposed to quit or when you want to quit. Okay, so that's another one of those encouraging, but probably really not useful when you think about it. Take time for yourself, and again, it's true to a degree. You need some quiet time. You need some downtime. We talk about brainstorming all the time, and I honestly believe that we all need more brain stilling time. Unplug, have time. Maybe it's in the morning before everything gets chaotic. Pour yourself a cup of coffee, watch the sunrise, do some journaling, read the Bible, read some self-help stuff, whatever it is you do. Maybe you go for a run. I've been swimming for a year now since I did that Tampa Bay Frogman swim, 3.1 miles back in January, and I'll do it again next year because I'm crazy. And so that's probably the only time that I am truly 100% unplugged. I saw a guy swimming about a week ago, and he had his iPhone sitting at the edge of the pool, and he had these waterproof earphones in. So, it looked kind of cool, but then again, I was like, what? This is my only time for brain stilling. And I'll spend about an hour in the pool just going. Right now I'm doing 2,000 meters a couple times a week just to kind of maintain. And towards the end of the year, I'll pick it up to get ready for next year's swim. But it's nice having that brain stilling time. Nothing else can come in. So get yourself some brain stilling time. And that may be the time you take for yourself, right? Maybe you just cannot afford it. Maybe you've got too many irons in the fire. Maybe you bit off more than you could chew, and there's just no way in hell you're going to take any time, okay? Maybe you could do a trip. No way can you do a vacation. Okay, I get it. Now, the goal is not to stay that way. It's not to stay totally imbalanced, right? At that point, you have a work-life imbalance. And it was never my goal to have that work-life imbalance. But sometimes you do have to jump into the deep end, and you're treading water, and you're swimming like crazy, and it is effort. So take it with a grain of salt when you hear people talk about this. Same thing, failure is not an option. It's like, really? Failure absolutely is an option. It's not a preferred option, but I can tell you honestly, I have learned more from my failures than from my successes. Okay? If failure is not an option, and again, going back to, how do you define failure? I think, the goal, failure as an entrepreneur, right? Failure as a salesperson, you're right, that's not an option. But some ventures you jump into and some things you try to launch, they will fail. Okay, and if they're not failing, you're not trying enough. You're not going out there. You're not walking out, at the thin end of the branch. Like they say, the fruit is sweeter the farther out on the branch you go. So failure absolutely is an option. So whoever says that, ask them what they mean, and if they can't answer it, then stop listening to them. Okay, the whole, don't take no for an answer. Encouraging, but is that useful? There's a bunch of old school sales guys out there, and some that are moderately famous right now, saying, you go for no. You got to get 5 no's before you get to yes. And I'm like, really? Is that how you want to be treated? Is that how you would want your wife, your mother, your daughter, your sister sold to? Totally hassled and hounded, jammed their head into the car. Remember the old jerky boys? Slammed his head into the hood. You're going to buy this thing? I go for no all the time. And if you think about it, think about an attorney. They have that free consultation. When you come in, that attorney is looking for a reason to say no. Because, you come in, let's say it's a workers' comp, and that's the type of law this attorney practices. You come in, they're going to ask you straight up, have you ever filed a claim before? Do you have a history of doing this? Were you on any type of probation at your job? Have you been fired? Have you ever been arrested? Were you using drugs or alcohol? Can you pass a drug test right now? Did you pass one after the injury? Were you tested? Is there anything that will preclude me from helping you win this case? And if there is, that attorney says, no, I am not taking you. And you need to be the same way in your sales. I truly believe that great salespeople are sorting and sifting and finding the diamond in the rough, finding the person that's begging to do business with you, that'll literally beg you, say, take my money, please work with me. And if you don't think that's possible, rest assured it is. Okay, I had brought on a guy last week, and I may not do any more business with him because the way he was so incessant. But I took a retainer from him to at least do a deep dive for him to peel back the onion a little bit and see what's going on in his business. But he kept hounding me. Literally, I'm emailing, calling, and I told him straight up. I answered the phone. I think it was late at night. It might have been a weekend. And I said, if you call again, I'm going to refund your money, and we are done. You got to take a breath. And he calmed down. Okay, so I say that because you can get to the point that people will beg you to take their money. Now, it took me a while to get there. It took me to create my own business and many years of doing that to get to the point. But getting back to the original statement, don't take no for an answer. You are better off to hear no early in the conversation than after weeks or even months of whining and dining and courting them, trying to earn the business, and then hear some BS excuse or even a legitimate excuse that you didn't uncover in the very beginning that would have saved you a lot of time and wasted energy and money. Okay, so don't take no for an answer. I think it's another one of those encouraging but not necessarily useful tips. Another, they talk about knowledge is power. And I see a lot of people at different conferences, and I went to 3 back-to-back in March and April, and actually 4. And I was invited to all of them, and I spoke at 3 of them, and so I went at no charge to these conferences. And so I'm not a big conference goer, but I would see the same people at literally all of these conferences. And I'm like, eventually you have a very full notepad, you can go to one conference and literally have more to-dos to implement that you could do in the rest of the year. But you see people go to the next one, the next one, the next one. So while knowledge is power, I think action is profitable. I'm going to have to write that down. I just made that up. So knowledge is power, that's true. And you know what? It's really good power if you got like dirt on somebody, right? And maybe that's what they mean. But until you put that knowledge into action, it's totally worthless. That's why there's so many teachers and professors that are broke. They're super smart. They have a lot of knowledge. But how powerful are they? How powerful is that knowledge just sitting in your brain? So, if I had one tip for you right now related to that, is stop going to conferences, at least as much. Really consider how much time you are away from home, away from the office. How much money are you spending? And then look back at your past conferences the past year, and how many times have you referenced the notebooks, either the physical notebook, right? Maybe you do something like an Evernote. Have you ever looked at those notes ever again? Did you even look at them after you left the conference? Because I see a lot of people going and partying, and there's something to be said for making connections, right? And making contacts. And I do that. And quite honestly, the best value of most of the conferences I go to are the connections that I make and leverage them for joint ventures, for cross-promotion, interviewing one another. That's how I got to speak at Social Media Marketing World this past year because I met Michael Stelzner at Podcast Movement last July or August in Texas. So as long as you have a plan, a method to your madness, and a demonstrable ROI from attending conferences, if you don't have that, then you need to slow down, stop going to these conferences, start taking action, right? Or have a plan so when you get to these conferences, you know who you want to meet, plan for weeks ahead of time. Reach out to maybe some of the keynote speakers or the breakout session leaders, or join their Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups, wherever they have an association for those that will be attending. Scour that list and set up firm meetings with people, okay, to get something out of it. But this whole knowledge is power, it's not true, okay? It's only true until you put it into action. Another, it was kind of a funny. Why do we feel safe under a blanket? It's not like a murderer will come in thinking, I'm going to kill, rats, they're under a blanket. So getting under a blanket just because the boogeyman is in the house is, it's an encouraging, but it's not necessarily a useful tip. Okay. A couple of others, you hear, just be yourself. And while I totally agree with that, being yourself is always a great thing to be, Sometimes the situation and the world is calling for a bigger version of yourself. Okay, I think we get too comfortable in our own skin. That's why one of my mottos, and I talked about it on another podcast quite a while ago, but the great Zig Ziglar talked about be, do, have. And I think you do, then you become, and then you have. And what I mean by that, when I was learning the art and the profession of sales, Steve Clark taught me this, in that, when you take the action that needs to be taken, it's empowering, and you start to personify what it is you're doing. And the case in point was, I was making outbound calls. I was still in technology, working for a company, and I had to make prospecting calls. I had to make cold calls. And having a script and then internalizing it and knowing what I was doing and knowing the value that I brought and knowing that I was an equal to the individual on the other end of the phone. Yeah, they may have been an IT director or a CEO even, but as a human being, we were equals. And in the particular segment that I was dealing with, in my product, my system, I was an expert more than that guy was, at least on my one thing. And so when I understood that, I stood tall, right? And so I did. And so the doing helped me become, and as I became that better, more valuable version of myself, then I had more, right? I made more money. I made more contacts, got more referrals. Things got easier. Okay, so this whole just be yourself, again, take it with a grain of salt. So I'm not saying be somebody else, but I'm saying look at your situation, and does the situation, is it calling for you to be a better version of yourself? So you can go back to that whole knowledge is power, but like I said, knowledge put into action, into practice, is what brings about that real power, okay? And finally, I'll leave you with this. Consider the source, okay? And the guy I was talking about, take time for yourself, he's really a really cool guy, and I don't want to spoil it, but I'll probably have him on the podcast before too long. But the way he handled my question, and he's got this very empowering thing for men, and he's learned from 2 divorces and business failure, and he's super successful in a lot of ways now. But, I said, why is it that people are attracted to these, the phoenix, right? Rising from the ashes. What happened to get up early, eat your vegetables, love your family, marry right, go to church, do the hard right thing and for long enough until you see the results of your labor, right? Nobody wants to hear that story, but they want to leave this trail of destruction and then figure out, oh man, that was the wrong way. Now let me try to recover. Okay, so consider the source. Consider who's throwing out these little gems and these little nuggets. Are they where you want to be? Have they come from an area, a background similar to yours? Are they on the path that you truly want to be on? Okay, there's one lady out there. Her mantra is fat, gay, and broke, and that's where she came from. And I study her. Right, she's very successful again, insofar as you call success, having a big list, or throwing big conferences. So she's successful in that regard. I don't think that lifestyle is a success. That's a whole nother topic. So I take her tips and advice and suggestions with a grain of salt. I'm studying her to see, as a consultant and a speaker and a trainer, how she's growing her business, because that's my world. And I can learn from everybody, even somebody that was fat, gay, and broke. But her tips and advice may or may not be exactly what I'm looking for. So don't take anything hook, line, and sinker. Don't take my advice hook, line, and sinker. Hopefully, the stuff that I'm doing and saying, my podcast, the Weekly Whisper, conference calls, different things that I put on, free reports that I create, hopefully those light a fire. Hopefully those get you a little bit off center, right? I want to keep you off balance just enough that you're working to get back into balance, that you're putting forth an effort. Okay, I always say in selling, our job is hurt and rescue. Our job is to make the prospect uncomfortable with the questions that we ask, and then to be calm and to be comfortable being in the presence of someone that is uncomfortable. So that's what I'm trying to do with you. Get you thinking, get you uncomfortable, get you out of the comfort zone so you can continue this journey, this quest for knowledge, and then apply it. All right? That's what we're going after. Now, what are you going to do after this podcast? Have you taken notes? Have you paused it and gone back? Maybe you're driving. Maybe you're at the gym. Are you going to forget to go back and listen to something that made you think? Are you going to forget to take a note? Are you going to forget to then read that note when you get to your desk, when you can do something about it? Okay, again, knowledge is not power. The application of knowledge is power. So I just gave you 20 plus minutes of some tips and suggestions, ideas. Please use it, okay? Please apply it. Please become more efficient in what you do. Please be more confident and more willing to shout your message from the rooftop. Okay, it's your job as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson to toot your own horn because nobody else is going to do it for you. Show feedback and guest suggestions are always welcome. Let me know what topics you'd like me to cover and any cool guys or gals you'd like me to interview. You can hit me up at wes@thesaleswhisperer.com. And if you want some affordable, live, interactive help from me and my team twice a month, check out marketingautomationnetwork.com. Even if you don't have an email or a CRM tool running yet, there's no other place on earth where you can get direct access to my team and me to answer your questions and record the answers and give you access to those sessions. You'll get access to the entire archive of sessions going back several years. So head on over to marketingautomationnetwork.com and sign up now. Remember to subscribe to the show, write me a review in iTunes, and I will love you long time. And please tell your friends, all right? The best compliment you can give is to share your feedback with a review and telling your friends about the show. Thanks for listening, and remember to sell different.